Good afternoon, everyone. David Dubine here. Thank you for spending your valuable time with the Adapt 2030 channel. Brazil is only going to export corn to China next year, almost a year from now. Beijing requested monitoring of weeds within the corn harvest. Herbicide shortages were already in Brazil. You can see why. Add into this the Tonga eruption. Areas across the southern hemisphere in red will be affected. Agricultural output. New Deal Act seems to be jumping in front of us. Waterway Development Act. And what CEOs are talking about in 2022, I don't see food anywhere on this. Could you guess what this is or where it was? The illusion of digital chains manifesting as food production collapses. Starting off here with the nugget. Government bonds across the planet. Worst year since 1865 in performance. Now, if you put that into context, the way the world's economy is moving, you can see there's a gigantic problem already here and intensifying. So you think the CEOs of companies would be talking about it, how to sort this out, get our supply chains up and running, farm inputs back in play. And on the right side, high and growing in importance of what CEOs are talking about in 2022. I see at the very bottom, big and fading in importance on the supply chains. I do not see food or agriculture in this chart, which is downright frightening that at the top levels of business, that's not even on the radar. But as you look at the chart, that line straight down the middle at 5%. If you go to the left of that, mere months ago, 2022. So look how much has changed in just 3 months on the importance and where the momentum of business is moving. Staggering pace of new debt, $7 trillion since March 2022. I mean, it's going to be looking like something like this with food shortages coming in. You're going to use this much money to go buy a loaf of bread. BRICS currency is taking a lot of things away here. And the debate about electric cars continues to roll across the lips of many in the news platforms. But I'll take you back to 1909, electric cars in a charging station. Where was all the development in the last 120 years for at least battery technologies? These things have been around. It's almost like they were purposely taken away and then now reushered in. And there's been that gap of 100 years of development. Which leads to a lot of credence. If you can't meter it or put a meter on it, then you're not allowed to have it. Tesla tried to prove this going with wireless technologies, but as soon as it came out that there was going to be no meter, that was no more. Same with these electric cars back from the early 1900s. Just in a common sense thinking about it way, is it just now it's back on the radar? And there has not been that much improvement in terms of range on these batteries, even in the last 120 years. So it seems like some things are shelved on purpose, just my opinion, and then they're pulled back off the shelf to put back into society, plug it in at exact right time to move the dial in whatever direction is chosen. The hype about collagen is real. Over 1,100 people participated in a study that demonstrated collagen supplements are some of the best ways to improve the quality and health of your skin. The study found that taking collagen for 90 days is effective in reducing the appearance of skin aging. Collagen does this by improving skin elasticity and hydration. And it's also one of the most effective ways to strengthen joints, bones, and ligaments, along with helping hair and nail growth. 5 key types of collagen you need from 4 different sources. And you also get a free e-report titled The 14 Foods for Amazing Skin that help slow down the effects of aging. And take up to 51% off your order by going to health with adapt2030.com. Free shipping, 60-day money-back guarantee. That link's in the description box below. And now on with the video. And the biggest story of the last week has to be Brazil telling China, you will get our corn next year in July. Wait a year from now before you get any more of our corn. Surprising statements, and I thought, what is making this happen here? But first we need to put it in context. So Brazil's second season corn is actually the main growing season. First season is pre-season or early corn. So you want to put it in perspective like this. Second corn season is the major growing season at the time. Some of these fertilizers and herbicides would have been secured last year in anticipation for this regular growth season coming. When they run through all their farm inputs, they're going to be at the behest of whatever's out there bidding it up on the market. So Brazilian agriculture official no corn exports to China because Beijing has requested monitoring of weeds and fungi in the corn crops. And if you keep tracing along after the fertilizer shortages, there's going to be herbicide and pesticide shortages, which will also dent yields. And off Reuters, Brazil's corn growers face, well, herbicide shortages. Growers are complaining about a shortage of the herbicide atrazine. Not a fan, but it is what regular agribiz uses right now to control weeds in the corn crops. And again, that coming back to the second corn crop, it's 70 to 75% of the production of Brazil. So looking to list the common weeds here across North America, the most troublesome versus the most common. The most troublesome are what you want to look at, because morning glory is a vine. So you could get vines in your combines. That should be a t-shirt. A lot of these weeds are in both hemispheres, ragweeds in southern hemisphere as well, lamb's quarters. You get a lot of these ironweed, that sort of thing in both hemispheres. So when you do look at, especially the amaranth, more prevalent in southern hemisphere. We have an enormous amount here, but it's more prevalent in southern hemisphere. So this seems to be the common knowledge reason that China's all over Brazil saying, you know what, when you harvest, there's going to be way too many weeds in there. Different varieties inside the corn for processing because you don't have the herbicides to knock those weeds out. So now you're going to go through a field that'll be 85% corn and 15% weeds. You're going to till, you're going to get all that pulled in on the combine at the same time. We need you to test it. And that's where this article sits. Now, they're not putting those pieces together like I did because it took weeks to find these, dots of information that were out there. But it was on my radar that the herbicide shortages were going to dent yield. And there would be a reaction of governments somehow because of herbicide and pesticide shortages. And here you are, direct plug-in right there. China wants verification that there's not an enormous amount of weeds or poisonous weeds that have come up with that corn during the combining process. But now we need to add in the volcanic eruption in Tonga. Now this is from a plane cruising at 39,000 feet. The actual ash cloud from the center column, not the entire what they call disk, but the center column ash cloud punched up to 180,000 feet. The disk itself, somewhere around 120,000 feet, and that has started to push ash, as you can see, following the curvature of the globe around in that latitude band. And from that point is expanded, and they're starting to see different rain patterns and cooling temperatures from the albedo from a volcanic eruption, sulfur dioxide, and the ash in the air. Did a video about this right after the eruption. I'm going to bring it back on your radar right here. In red are the areas that will be affected with direct ash influence on the crops this year, southern hemisphere. Now that's going to play out through December as we here in the northern hemisphere go into winter and the southern hemisphere goes into its planting harvesting season. We'll see how it goes. But as goes in the world, Buenos Aires and Argentina also, truckers blocking roads, people protesting high fuel prices and food prices, and it's everywhere. That's a neighboring country in the continent, major grain producer themselves. And with that much turmoil going on in different countries around in South America, this smoothness of delivery down waterways from one country crossing borders to another to get it to ports at seaside, well, we'll see how smooth that is, because generally when there's a regional disturbance, it affects the region. And we'll throw a little cherry on top here. EU crop yields projected to fall. There's some different numbers on which crop. And then the wine also, a lot of rumors about wine production being hit in Europe. But if we look at the wheat crop, down to 123 million tons from 129 million tons, but I've seen it as low as 115 already. So the true numbers will come out at harvest season, but we'll see where it moves from there. Now, the barley harvest is down a couple million tons from the forecast, and also the corn harvest dropping from almost 70 million tons to 65. That's going to continue further down, and those exports aren't going to be there this year. So there's going to be runaway prices everywhere. And those that are relying on EU exporters and that out of the Black Sea read off world grain. Indonesia wheat imports increase amid market uncertainty. They're smart. They're saying, we don't know what's going to happen with this. We're going to import as much as we can, as fast as we can. And if we over import, we can just sell it into the market slowly. But if there's not a problem, we'll have an enormous amount of wheat. So again, these other countries are starting to buy up huge amounts of canceled wheat. Like Egypt canceled its contracts for unloaded Ukrainian wheat. It never got loaded. And so they're like, we got to cancel the contract. So then Egypt is down on their wheat imports. So look for unrest because of that. Food prices should increase. And here we go. I mentioned Argentina, did I not? Wheat forecast lower due to drought. See, this volcanic ash is having effects down in the southern hemisphere, and it will play out through the next year and a half, because you need to look at Pinatubo to see how the northern hemisphere reacted to an eruption of that magnitude. Which brings me to the finance. Reading about the Great Depression, there's a great book I have been into here recently, Benjamin Roth's The Great Depression, a diary. Talked about all these programs that arose after Roosevelt took office, public works programs, TVA, Tennessee Valley Authority, and it was all about putting unemployed people to work so they could restart the economy. And here we go. This looks like a light version of something that they know in advance is going to happen, but they already have a project ready to employ people because it looks very similar to a crystal ball or a reflection of 1933 coming back again. Senate passes Waterways Development Act. Modernizing the U.S. waterway infrastructure. I approve of that. It's so decrepit and dams and locks are way past their usable dates. But think about it. If you have millions of people out of work and then you need to expedite the modernization of U.S. inland waterways with a budget already set for that, you already know how many people you could hire instantly and put them back to work to stop mass unemployment. And there's a lot of things in history that overlap. So in the beginning of the video, I was asking, what is this? Where was this? But I thought it was a really interesting photo too. I haven't seen that many cables or wires coming out of South. First I thought it was a bridge, and then I read further down in the article, it's a telephone exchange in Stockholm, 5,000 lines, 1890. Off the same feed that you saw those electric cars from 1909. Does seem the old is the new again. Did you realize they had that much technology and that many phone lines back then? I was shocked. I thought you would see something like that later in the 1920s, but not 1890. So the world of history eludes many or all. Is it distorted? And how many cycles of history are we about to repeat right now? You might want to think about some storable foods as we move into these times. My Patriot's Plan Adapt 2030, 3-month emergency food supply, 25-year shelf life, and take $150 off today by using the link in the description box below. Having storable foods gives you that peace of mind that you don't have to wander out into the chaos, which seems to be quickly approaching. Thanks for watching. Hope you got something out of the video, and I will see you next time.